From atop Troy's colossal walls, a sentinel peered out. His heart was heavy with years of siege. He could not know an impossible deception was coming. It was crafted from wood and desperation. This deception rolled towards their gates. It carried the city's ultimate doom. Today, charred remnants of those walls remain. Dozens of ancient slingstones are also found. They speak not of a poet's fancy. Instead, they reveal a devastating conflict. This swept away a powerful civilization. For centuries, stories of gods and monsters were dismissed. Tales of heroes and impossible feats seemed fantasy. They were colorful imaginings of ancient minds. Yet, with every turn of a spade, truth emerges. Archaeologists and historians find new analysis. The line between legend and history is often thin. What if iconic myths contained threads of truth? They could be waiting for us to uncover them. Consider the ancient city of Troy. It was once thought a mythical place, existing only in Homer's Iliad verses. This saga described Helen, Achilles, and Hector. It detailed a protracted war. For generations, scholars believed Homer's poem purely fictional. His epic was written in the 7th century BC. However, Troy's discovery began not with poetry. It began with determination. In 1863, Frank Calvert unearthed a lost city. A few years later, in 1871, Heinrich Schliemann began. He started aggressive excavation. Schliemann proved Troy was a real city. It was a tangible place on Anatolia's coast. Schliemann's methods were often destructive. They damaged vital archaeological layers. He fervently searched for Homeric treasure. His work ended a centuries-long debate. Despite this groundbreaking discovery, skeptics remained. The academic community doubted the Iliad's events. Troy's existence seemed separate from war legends. That perspective shifted dramatically later. More recent archaeological endeavors changed views. Today, in Turkey, Professor Rustam Aslan worked. His team unveiled profound new evidence. The epic conflict was a real historical event. Their excavations revealed a distinct destruction layer. It testified to the city's violent end. Outside palace walls, they unearthed sling bullets. These were prevalent Bronze Age projectile weapons. They required readily available stones. Meticulously crafted arrows were not always needed. Arrowheads were also found alongside these. However, many sling bullets indicated massive assault. A skilled slinger could launch lead balls, or river stones at 200 miles per hour. Accuracy extended up to 440 yards. It could pierce bronze armor and shatter bone. The team also uncovered charred buildings. Human remains were interred hastily. This suggested a swift, devastating siege end. Just as ancient Greek accounts describe, these findings date the conflict 300-200 years ago. Some findings date up to 300-600 years ago. This aligns with the 1184 BC date perfectly. Ancient Greek historians attributed this to the Trojan War. Herodotus and Eratosthenes treated it as genuine. It was a historical conflict, not a mythological tale. Perhaps the most contested element of the legend, the Trojan horse, finds new plausibility. While no physical evidence of a colossal wooden horse has ever been found, the broken weapons, burned ruins, and human remains indicate close quarters fighting within the city wall. These suggest that Troy's defenses were somehow breached, allowing an assault to commence from within. The city's undoing likely began when warriors, perhaps hidden inside such a structure, they opened the gates for the besieging army. Yet, the question of who ultimately sacked Troy remains nuanced. The city's destruction coincides precisely with a period of wide-ranging upheaval around 1190 BC. An unknown force, the Sea Peoples, began attacking coastal cities. They attacked kingdoms across the Mediterranean. These enigmatic raiders destabilized entire civilizations, contributing to the general decline of the Late Bronze Age. Some scholars propose that the defeated Trojans themselves, once their city was ravaged, they became these very Sea Peoples, taking to the seas to exact revenge. They sought revenge on the world. Others suggest it was the Sea Peoples, not the Greeks, who launched the final assault. They were drawn by its strategic position along a vital trade route, also by its accumulated wealth. Regardless of the identity of the final attackers, the archaeological record confirms the Trojan War was not merely a myth. It was a very real event, ending with the city's spectacular ruin. This ruin was seemingly from within its own walls. Beyond the grandeur of Troy, other more personal legends also hold surprising truths. Deep in the rolling hills of Tuscany, inside the small Italian town of Chiasdino, there stands a modest shrine. Within its ancient stone, a sword remains plunged into solid rock. Its hilt and a few inches of blade are exposed. For generations, skeptics dismissed it as a later fabrication. They called it a clever medieval attraction inspired by King Arthur. In 2001, Dr. Luigi Garlis Shelley of the University of Pavia. He conducted a thorough metal analysis. His findings confirmed the sword's authenticity, dating it to the 12th century. Its dimensions and design matched weapons from the 1170s. Radar scans revealed the blade continuing deep into the stone. There was no trickery, no hidden weld, and no crack in the rock. Beneath the sword, researchers discovered a rectangular cavity, 2 meters by 1 meter. Historians believe it a burial recess, potentially containing Saint Galgano's remains. Local tradition tells the story of how this sword came to rest in the stone. Galgano Guidotti, born to nobility in 12th century Chiasdino, was far from saintly in his youth. He was a violent, arrogant knight, consumed by worldly pleasures. When the archangel Michael appeared, demanding he renounce his extravagant life to serve God, Galgano scoffed, declaring such a transformation as difficult as splitting rock with a sword. To emphasize his point, he drew his broadsword and struck the bedrock, expecting it to shatter. Instead, the stone yielded like softened clay, and the sword sank deep. Only its hilt was visible. Galgano, witnessing this marvel, immediately fell to his knees. He recognized the cross formed by the sword's hilt as a divine sign. He renounced his wealth, becoming a hermit and living a life of spiritual devotion. This legend is further embroidered with a tale of 3 jealous monks. They attempted to steal or destroy the sword while Galgano was on pilgrimage. They were attacked by his befriended wild wolves. One monk was reportedly dragged away and eaten. This story is echoed by mummified skeletal arms, still displayed in the chapel. Carbon dating confirms these also date back to the 12th century. It is widely believed that this legend of Saint Galgano, canonized in 1185, it directly inspired the later Arthurian tales of a sword in a stone or anvil. The first written accounts of King Arthur's legendary feat were penned by poet Robert de Born. They emerged decades immediately following Galgano's canonization. By Galgano's funeral was a significant event attended by high-ranking church officials. The story would have spread across Europe. Interestingly, the Arthurian version inverts Galgano's narrative. Arthur pulls the sword out to gain power. Galgano plunges his into the stone, relinquishing his worldly power and wealth. He did this for spiritual devotion. Galgano died in 1181 at the age of 33, 1 year after his miraculous act. The Rotonda di Montesiepi was built directly around the embedded sword. It preserves this tangible piece of 12th century steel within its rocky embrace. The enduring power of ancient beliefs surfaces in the legend of Medusa. Her gaze could turn men to stone, a truly terrifying gorgon. Most know her as a monster, but her full narrative is complex. In Greek mythology, Medusa was one of 3 Gorgon sisters. While her sisters were immortal and grotesque, Medusa was exquisitely beautiful, so pure that Athena, goddess of wisdom, chose her as a high priestess. Yet, her beauty proved a perilous gift. Poseidon, the sea god and Athena's rival, desired Medusa. Despite her rejection, he took her by force within Athena's sacred temple. Enraged not at Poseidon, but at Medusa for defiling her shrine, Athena transformed her. Her beautiful hair became a nest of vipers, her skin scaled. Her face, so horrifying that any who looked upon her turned to stone. Cast out and broken, Medusa fled to the very edge of the known world. She came to reside in a cave, leaving a trail of petrified. These men sought to destroy her, meeting a stony fate. Eventually, the gods dispatched Perseus, armed with divine gifts. He wielded a helmet of invisibility, a magic sword, and a polished reflective shield. Along with a magic pouch and winged sandals, he was prepared. Perseus succeeded in beheading her, ending the Gorgon's reign. From her severed neck, the winged horse Pegasus sprang forth. While literal snakes for hair are unlikely, archaeologists consider a cave of the Gorgons. This idea gained substance with a ceramic carving of Medusa discovered in 2019. This carving dates back to 500 years, found inside Gorham's Cave in Gibraltar. This cave lies at the geographical end of the Mediterranean, precisely where the ancient Greeks believed the world concluded. Beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the very place Medusa was said to have fled. Was this ancient carving a warning to travelers? Did the inhabitants genuinely believe in Gorgons within those tunnels? Or was this cave a sanctuary for women, perhaps priestesses, whose matted, unkempt hair might have appeared serpentine to fearful outsiders? Women who were not understood by the wider world. Whatever the truth, the image within Gorham's cave suggests physical snakes may be myth. But the profound fear and the underlying story were very real. Even the mightiest heroes of antiquity, like Hercules, were drawn from human experience. While Achilles or Odysseus are often depicted with sophisticated metal weaponry, Hercules stands apart, unique in his portrayal. He is almost universally shown wielding a crude wooden club and draped in a lion's skin, a symbol of primal strength. This unique portrayal led historians to ask, was Hercules a real Stone Age person? This is not mere speculation. Serious scholars support this idea. Scholars like Dumi Zil and Witzel observed the Hercules archetype. Immense strength, a massive blunt weapon, and endless challenges. This archetype appears in cultures descended from Proto-Indo-Europeans, who lived thousands of years before the rise of Greece. The Norse god Thor and the ancient Indian hero Indra share these core characteristics. This suggests these myths might be cultural echoes of a powerful chieftain who lived 5,000 or 6,000 years ago, during the Stone Age. A man whose feats were so exceptional, his name reverberated through millennia. Historian Martin Nilsson argued Hercules' labors were not random tales, but were tethered to specific geographical locations in the Peloponnese. For Stone Age peoples, monsters were not just fairy tales. They were the very real and present dangers of Eurasian cave lions, or formidable wolves that preyed on early settlements. The historical Hercules might have been a pioneer, clearing dangerous territories, leading his people to make wild lands safe for farming. Over vast stretches of time, the individual who confronted a big cat in a cave transformed into the hero who wrestled a lion to the ground. While no grave will ever bear a sign reading Hercules, the pervasive evidence points to him as the ultimate Stone Age strongman, a representation of humanity's earliest struggles against the untamed wilderness, whose legendary deeds lingered in collective memory long after the world had moved into the age of metal. Sometimes, a historical event is so extreme, beyond the ordinary, that it gives birth to a legend that transcends its own time. The classic novel, Moby Dick, published in 1852 by Herman Melville, an exploration of obsession and a colossal white whale, is one such legend. Though it was a commercial failure upon its release, the book's enduring power stems from a profoundly real and harrowing incident, the sinking of the Essex in 1820. Captain Pollard's life was irrevocably marked by this harrowing experience at sea. Considered a harbinger of ill fortune by his island community, he faced severe judgment. He later lost command of a second whaling vessel, the Two Brothers. He was never again given a captain's position after these disasters. Yet, to Herman Melville, Pollard's story was compelling. The Essex had departed Nantucket in August 1819 for a 2-year voyage. Early on, a squall nearly destroyed the 87-foot whaling ship, but it barely survived the intense tempest. When the crew found the waters off Cape Horn, barren of whales, Pollard steered towards the South Pacific. There, at Charles Island in the Galapagos, they provisioned their ship with 60 tortoises. In a severe act of carelessness, a crewman started a fire. It consumed the dry island, causing potential extinction of 2 species. Pollard, furious, vowed retribution, but did not know the culprit. The true ordeal began in November 1820, far from any land. First mate Owen Chase, then 23, spotted an immense whale estimated at 85 feet long. The creature, eerily still, observed the ship. Then it suddenly attacked, smashing into the vessel like a living projectile. The impact threw every sailor off their feet on the ship. The whale then thrashed beneath the hull before disappearing into the depth. As the crew desperately attempted to repair the damage, the whale reappeared. It struck the bow a second time, sending water rushing in. The 20 crewmen scrambled into 3 small lifeboats, watching their livelihood disappear beneath the waves. Captain Pollard, who had been on another whaling boat nearby, returned to find his ship sinking. Thousands of miles from any land, their choices were grim and few. Pollard wished to sail for the Marquesas Islands, but Chase feared cannibals. He persuaded him to head south, hoping to encounter another whaling ship. Hope diminished quickly in their dire situation. Within weeks, their dried bread was ruined by salt water, increasing their dehydration. The sun scorched their skin relentlessly. They found a deserted island, so desolate that 3 men chose to remain there. They preferred a solid grave to further suffering in the boats. The remaining men in the boats, by now desperate, continued their journey. By January, provisions were entirely gone. On Pollard's boat, a sailor succumbed to delirium, and then to death. The survivors, facing an impossible choice, dissected his body, harvested his organs. They cooked his heart on a stone, giving him a respectful burial at sea afterwards. Over the next week, this devastating act was repeated 3 more times. The human flesh offered only temporary reprieve, seeming to intensify their hunger. The boats drifted apart, increasing their isolation. By February, starvation returned with renewed vengeance. A teenager, Charles Ramsdell, proposed drawing lots to choose one for sacrifice. This was a dire tradition of the sea for survival. The lot fell to Owen Coffin, Captain Pollard's cousin. Though Pollard, distraught, offered himself in his place, Owen Coffin, utterly exhausted, accepted his tragic fate. He was killed and consumed, a sacrifice for his desperate crewmates. On February 23, 1821, 3 days after the Essex sank, rescue finally appeared. An American ship named the Delphin spotted a small boat. Captain Pollard and his crewmate, Charles Ramsdell, were found in a wretched state. They huddled amidst the gnawed bones of their shipmates. Even upon rescue, traumatized and delirious, they clung to the bones. They obsessively sucked the marrow from their pockets. The 3 men, who had stayed on the barren island, were later rescued. They survived on bird eggs and sheer fortune against all odds. While Captain Pollard eventually regained a measure of his sanity, the event left an indelible mark. Back in Nantucket, his account of the Essex's sinking and the subsequent ordeal at sea was shared. One of whom later described it as the most distressing narrative ever known. The custom of the sea usually forgave cannibalism for survival. But Nantucket could not forgive a man who had participated in the consumption of his own family. Pollard lived out his days as a night watchman. Herman Melville immortalized the whale, but the profound human tragedy of George Pollard faded. His impossible choices were only rediscovered through the enduring power of a novel. From ancient battles remembered in stone to the harrowing survival of a 19th-century whaling crew. These stories remind us that human experience has always shaped our understanding of reality. The past, it seems, continues to reveal itself, one astonishing discovery at a time.